So let's look at the status quo in talent acquisition. So we see two things. We see a solidification, and we see some sparse innovation that comes up and makes the thing really interesting. Solidification is, as I spoke before, about pipelining tools. So usually you have something like a realistic job review, then you have a situational judgment test, personality questionnaires, performance test, blah, 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 blah. So that when you go from a large amount of candidates, you end up with only those that you may be interested in. And then, of course, for tools that are interconnected, the optimum would be that you have an extremely nice and pleasant experience, user experience that let you concentrate on selecting the right people and not put your energy into managing the tools. And because there are tons of new KPI that you have to fulfill, for example, diversity hire. And then, of course, the big question about algorithmic ethics or in general, the fairness of the selection that you have. And at the same time, you see some new methodologies coming up. They are not really connected yet. As, for example, CV analytics, automated selection of candidates based on their CVs, using machine learning to identify what's necessary there. Then you have video interviews where people's faces get screened, and then you have a computer that automatically understands at which question there was stress or not really clear what people said, and then look all kinds of fancy things like much they blush or how the pupils dilate. And then of course you have social media screening, orientation, where people, as I said, the SAP example, where people can then see which part of the company would be interesting for them, because if it's such a big company. And you can, of course, and many companies do screen the social media profiles of their candidates, or allow them even to unlock their profiles, for example, with LinkedIn, so that they don't need to write a complex application. Then you have new and so-called more fair models. For example, I think Symmetrics, they come up with this new model that is based on cognitive neurosciences, where it's important to really, the people that are good in their job already, they do certain tests. And the idea is that since it's based on the neurology of people, it's something that everyone should be more fair in fulfilling the tasks. Then, of course, a lot of mobile first approaches where you think that actually people just need to use their phone, and so because it's something they use much more. And then of course the whole blockchain revolution and using all kinds of other ambient data to realize what's good and what's not. So that's the what's going on and what people think is good. However, if you look what the reality looks like, you see that the pipelining tools are inefficient or very expensive to set up. So you can choose between something that's not really good but cheaper in relation, or that's expensive to set up. You see that there are gaps in all the convenience tools, and let's face it, Taleo rules in most of the places, right? And there is no much big pipeline convenience tools otherwise. Then you have some kind of, I would say it's a kind of desperation or apathy around recruiters, because someone says you have to hire 50% female engineers, but if there's only 5% female engineers in the market because not enough women study engineering, you have a really hard time, right? And so then, of course, you have hostile regulations, lack of research and algorithmic ethics, and think about GDPR in Europe, it's a nightmare. And so basically then many of the CV analytics tools are in early stages, are in piloting stages, they're not well spread all over, they're not really bound into your system. Then, of course, video interviews, the state and trade problem, I come to this in a second, but usually you can only see what's going on in the moment. So, for example, if you want to enter Israel, what you have real interviews, right? And then people are educated to look at your emotional responses. And so what you usually figure out then are people that have all kinds of problems or whatever in their lives and still get triggered. And people then say, hey, something is wrong with them. And it must not be that they want to commit some kind of act there, but what's really about, it's more that that they have a nervous time. And same thing could be true when you do a video interview, right? And then of course, if you do social media screening, either it is in very piloting stages, it's nothing that is already implemented in the systems. It's heavily blocked with some regulations, some countries where you're still not allowed to use social media for screening. And then talking about cognitive neuroscience, that's almost my favorite one, because in many ways it's old wine in new bottles. In the 70s, they already started so-called culture-free tests to make them more fair against people with less education from different religions, cultures, etc. But if you really look what it doesn't really perform that well. And no matter what people say, it's just a nice framing around this. And then, of course, if you think about mobile devices, they are made for short interactions. They are made for keeping them close to your brain, so people prefer and short. But if you have a 30 minutes test to do, it's a nightmare. You won't do this, right? And so, and of course, blockchain, we definitely even started, so all kind of smart contracts or the like. So it's something that just happens.